Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I am lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Brad McCarty from Messiah. Coach, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on. There's a lot of folks who may not be familiar with Messiah, but if you're at all familiar with men's college soccer, you absolutely should be. And I'll let you brag about the accolades of the school later on. But let's start first off. Just talk about the recruiting and how you bring players in and that sort of stuff. I mean, and I'm really curious to answer this, especially since your program has such a storied history. But when do you usually start hearing from players? What you're in high school, then when do you start actively recruiting players?
Sure. Well, let me kind of I'll give you our recruiting process and then the timeline associated with that. Does that work?
Yeah, that's great.
So we'll work with maybe 200, 250 kids in a recruiting class. Some other schools that may be a lot broader, like maybe it's 500, maybe it's depending on the type of school and how wide that net gets thrown. For us, it's a couple hundred kids. I think our recruiting is similar than some schools, different than others. We bring in a set number of kids based on a handful of variables. So first of all, we won't carry more than, we'll carry between 23 and 25 field players, 2 to 4 goalkeepers. So we don't want to carry less than that. We don't want to carry more than that. And we don't cut kids. We don't push them out the door. Kids don't quit very often. I think in my 14 years as the head coach, we've had 7 players walk away. You'll have some programs, they'll have 7 kids walk away in a single class. Then what you're just talking about is spots based on graduation. Now, COVID's made things really wonky. Maybe it hasn't impacted some programs. For us, I had a 6th-year senior, 2 5th-year seniors, and 7 seniors on my team last year. And out of those 7 seniors, 6 are returning next year. So it's kind of, when someone says, well, how many people are graduating? I'm like, I don't know, I got to work on that, and so, but normally it's based on graduation. And so based on that, we know how many spots. Traditionally, it's between 5 and 7 kids. COVID's had an impact on that. My last couple classes have been smaller as a result of 5th years, but traditionally between 5 and 7. And so we're looking, for specific things to try and narrow it down to about 25 kids, kind of like on paper who we think would be a great fit. What are we looking for? First, we want a kid that's just a great kid, good heart, great teammate, high level buy-in. Second, we want a kid who's a Christian kid, just wants to be at a Christian school. That's part of, they want that to be a part of their college experience, whether that's in the dorm, in the classroom, or on the field. And so, that's an important part of our recruiting process. We want a kid who's mature, emotionally, socially, spiritually, academically. That's important. We want a kid with a growth mindset, believe they can get better through hard work. Just we call it the healthy, just like a healthy grind, an unhealthy grind, like weight of expectations, but just honing your crafts. And so we want guys that want that. We want a kid who's a good student. We don't have study halls. We don't check grades. We don't make sure they go to class or teach them how to read a syllabi. We would like our team GPA to be above a 3.0. It's been above a 3.5 for like the last 8 semesters. And that's pretty high for a men's athletics team.
Sure.
But we want kids to care and to work hard and, be committed to that. And I think our guys do a good job of modeling that for each other and for the younger guys. Maybe on the field, it's just first touch, skill, comfort on the ball, decision-making, right? The tactical piece, how quickly they can make those decisions on both sides of the ball. It's kind of how fast you are. It's a big field, 120 by 75. And so, we're, just that, we also call it like area of influence, just the ability to cover grounds. I think the other piece is kind of like, we call it a competitive muscle, just burning desire to want to win, coupled with, the emotional discipline that you're not getting yellow cards thinking every game. So, the other piece would be just like, do they fit into our system and style? So we've been playing the same system and style for a long time. We play 4-3-3, which isn't rocket science. Lots of people play that, but we do play a particular style of soccer. And so when we watch somebody play, we watch someone through that lens to see if they have the characteristics that fit a particular position within our system, and they play a style that would fit how we play. The other piece is like, all right, well, if I do know who's graduating, what positions are they, and do those positions open up?
Sure.
I think kind of leads into timeline. We'll start to connect with kids, summer before their junior year. They'll come to one of our ID camps. We'll connect with them. They fill out an online questionnaire, or they send us an email. In November, if we're not playing, we'll try and get to some tournaments. We'll have a winter ID clinic where it's a touch point for us. We'll get to some of the major tournaments, ECNL, showcases, Potomac, Jeff Cup, stuff like that. We don't get out as much as some other schools. I know we don't, because, if I'm looking for a Christian kid, it's more about filtering than it is identifying. That doesn't work for everybody. And I'm standing on the shoulders of, Leighton Shoemaker and Dave Brandt, who allows players to reach out to us. For me to just go put a chair down at Jeff Cup and circle kids that are good players, it just doesn't really work. So, we want kids that care about their faith. And so, that's an important piece. So our ID camps in June, we added one in July, but that's a Christian college ID camp. I invite other Christian colleges to come and recruit. I don't pay them. They don't pay me. They don't work the camp, but recruiting's really inefficient process. Choosing a college is a really inefficient process. You're driving up and down the Eastern Seaboard, spending money on Hampton Inn every weekend at tournaments. And then you got to go visit a school, which takes all day long, or you go to a region and to visit 3 schools, and it takes 4 days. So, I've had a couple of my daughters go through that college process, and it's not easy on either side. So that college ID camp is trying to help us be a little bit efficient. So that's where we kind of figure out where someone falls on the depth chart.
No, you managed to answer probably half a dozen different questions I was going to ask you in that answer. So well done. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons I kind of started this, was hopefully people could at least have that initial thought and conversation with a coach that maybe they didn't have, and learn about some schools they weren't aware of. So let's talk a little bit more about the hard topic of money. Obviously Messiah Division III, no athletic scholarships. What does the academic scholarship and just the overall financial aid situation look like for most of your players?
Yeah, higher ed's a little bit of a mess right now. It's not unfair to call it a broken model.
Yeah.
We're in this litigious society which jacks up medical costs and healthcare, and we're in this industry that requires a lot of people to work. And so it's just facilities, and there's teachers, and there's just a lot of individuals. And so it didn't help in the 90s when administrations across the US added 6% on top of 6% on top of 6%. It was like compound interest the wrong way. And so that's hard.
Yeah.
The reality is, for a lot of middle income families, private higher education's been priced out for that. You know, you got a kid who's like a 3.0 with 1,000 on his SATs, and he's got a couple teachers, you know, his parents are teachers. Like, I don't know, that's really challenging. You know, I think Messiah works hard to do that, and you know, I think there's schools that maybe do a better job of meeting need, but it's very merit-based. It's based on GPA and SAT score. There's need-based aid. There's also, you know, opportunity to interview for academic scholarships. And so, you know, for the right kid, you know, I think it's certainly affordable, but like anything, there's a spectrum there in regard to what that means, what that looks like. It also depends on, you know, what major. If you're, you know, interested in youth ministry, like, you know, I think that's not something where you can handle those loan payments afterwards. If you're engineering or accounting, you know, I'm like, you know, I think you can find ways to make that work.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more. You know, you mentioned majors. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school itself. You know, I went to school in the Mid-Atlantic, and so I knew of Messiah. But you know, now that I'm down here in Florida, I'm pretty sure that most of the people that I'd run into at our club wouldn't have any idea. So besides what I can find on the website, you know, because everybody can click around there, but give me some of the in-depth, awesome things about your school. Most people wouldn't know. You're an alum as well, so you got a unique perspective. So what, you know, help sell Messiah based on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great location in the Mid-Atlantic region. There's 10 million different highways that come through here, and so it's easily accessible. You know, New York, Philly, Baltimore, you know, Western PA, Ohio, you know, Maryland, Delaware, Jersey, Carolinas. Like, it's you know, it's you go 3-4 hours and you can catch a lot of different individuals. So it's a great location. It's a beautiful campus. It's a strong Christian school. That's really important to it's just woven into the fabric of the school. So if you're not interested in going to a Christian school, Messiah wouldn't be a good fit. But if you're like, hey, my faith's important to me, I want that to, you know, my experience to be through that biblical worldview lens, then it's awesome. You know, I think it's about 2,500 students, and you know, I think they've done a really good job of pursuing, you know, excellence academically. They do, you know, a really good job in sciences, in math, education. They've got, you know, I've got kids that are, you know, in med school. So pre-med is a good major here, bio, all kinds of different stuff like that. We've had a lot of accounting majors. We've had a lot of engineering majors. You know, we've had education majors, kids who've gone on and teach and coach. So they do, you know, I think good job. They just added a finance major, you know, several years ago. And so that's been something that a number of our players have joined in. So, you know, I think just that pursuit of like, man, doing a good job academically. I think the biggest difference is just, you know, the quality of the kids we attract, the quality of the faculty that we attract. And when I mean quality, I just mean like, and how they interact with others, how they treat others. And so that just permeates the campus, and it just feels different than if you when you visit another school, just in regard to people's genuine willingness to care for others and to put others first is something that's, I think, makes Messiah stand out.
That's awesome. Sorry, I'm always writing notes for these, but well, on the academic side, kind of what support mechanisms does your school provide, and how do your student athletes balance the commitments between school and sport?
Yeah, good question. Messiah has support. there's not too often am I bringing in a kid that needs those services. Like I said, we don't have study hall and check grades and help kids out. Besides, just man, it's really expensive if you're coming in as an average student. You can come in as an average student, and Messiah would work with you, and they have student services for that. For us, one of the most important things is recruiting a kid who's mature. Oftentimes, not always, oftentimes there's a correlation between GPA and maturity. And so for us, I think we recruit kids that they're intrinsically motivated and they're pretty driven academically. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. It also depends on your major. I'm like, if you're a business major, I'm like, you'll have more free time than your roommate who's an engineering major. If you're an engineering major, if you're a pre-med major, man, those are brutal. Those are hard, but you can do it. I think Messiah is a great place for that. Like I said, we don't, being in the Mid-Atlantic and being where we are and being accessible to so many areas, our kids don't miss class very often. Division I, you could be flying around, and I'm like, that's fun the first couple of times, but I'm like, that can get old. Half our games are at home. It's under the lights. You don't miss class. Quarter of our games are on the road on a Saturday. You don't miss class. So I'm talking about 4 midweek games, and 3 of those are within a half hour or hour, and they're under lights, so you probably don't miss class. So our kids don't miss class for practice. They don't miss class for games. But it's certainly challenging. It's certainly difficult. But there's been tons of kids that have done it before them, and there'll be tons of kids after that can do both here at Messiah.
So that kind of leads me to my next question, which I think you already somewhat answered, but a typical week during the season, it sounds like you're going to be classes earlier, practice later, and games are you on a Wednesday, Saturday cadence then?
Yeah, typically. Yeah. I mean, we practice 4 days a week. We practice, Monday, Tuesday, game on Wednesday. Sometimes we'll have a game on Tuesday. And then practice Thursday, Friday. We practice 4:15 to 6. Class ends at 3:50.
Okay.
So some kids' class ends at 2:50, and so they have plenty of time to get out and train. A lot of our guys come out before practice or stay after. I tell guys, I'm like, I can't make you better in an hour and 45 minutes. Like you're gonna have to put in things that are specific to your position. And we do lots of functional training, but they still need to find time to either stay late or get out there early. So we'll have a game on a weekday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have a game on Saturday, and then we are off on Sunday. We don't practice or play on Sundays, except for NCAAs when we're forced to.
Yeah. Well, and again, you mentioned it a little bit before, but you're in a great location, so your travel doesn't have to be that far. But as kind of the nationally recognized program that you are you trying to have some longer road trips, non-conference stuff to play certain people, or I mean, obviously your conference is amazingly strong, but in terms of non-conference stuff, how does that work for your scheduling?
I mean, we will, but I'm like, we can find really good teams to not travel very far, nationally ranked teams, but we will. I mean, we're opening our season up at Washington and Lee and Lynchburg. So we'll do stuff like that. I'm like, I think the days of like flying out to Chicago to play Wheaton, I think those days may be done. But I think we play a great schedule. We have a strong schedule every year. Whether that's us finding NYU, in the city, or Oneonta, stuff like that. I'm like, we find ways to play quality opponents. Carthage is flying in, for this fall, and so we play a great schedule. Try and get some Centennial teams. So it's been good.
Good. Well, you already mentioned like your the number of players you try to carry on your roster. One of the things I noticed that's a little bit different probably than most Division III and even Division II programs I've talked to is you have a decent size assistant coaching staff.
Mhm.
So what is your coaching staff look like?
Yeah,
What roles do they play, et cetera?
yeah, yeah. No, it's a great question. So I have an assistant coach that's on campus. It's a quarter of his load. So he's not like in my office 24/7
Right.
asking me, questions. He's the director of Aroma, which is just kind of sports ministry arm here on campus. And then he's got another quarter responsibility between admissions and game management. So he is here. He's accessible to both myself and my players. That's Aaron Farrow. So he's been here a long time. I hired him away from MAI. He was out in Chicago. I figured if I could get him here for 2 to 3 years, that'd be great. And he's been here since I took over the program. So this will be our 14th year together. I lost a longtime assistant coach, Sam Woodworth. He had been on our staff for about half of his life, or at least part of Messiah men's soccer. He's around 30, played here for 4 years and was like an assistant for 12. So he's been around for a long time. But we hired a recent grad who's local. In addition, we have Benji Kennel, who's an alum. He's a local businessman, works at Soccer Shots. And we've got Justin Johnson, who's our goalkeeper coach. He's also a businessman that's local. He's the goalkeeper director for a local club as well, Keystone. I think other than Justin, we have a volunteer. He's a student in the PT school that we have here. So he's a grad student. So he's a volunteer assistant, comes and helps us out. But that's short term. I mean, for the most part, our assistant coaches, so Trevor Goodling was a 5th-year senior last year. He's joining our staff. Those guys, I'm like, man, if you can make practice twice a week and lead a Bible study, that's what I need. And so, I think we asked them to be relationally invested and do a good job of putting their arms around guys and having relationships, taking them out to eat. Like I said, lead a Bible study, and if they can make it to practice, that's brilliant. So we'll put them to work when they come.
That's great. We're talking here in April. What does your off-season program typically look like?
Yeah, this year is a little bit different. We took a trip over spring break down to Colombia.
Oh, wow.
That's NCAA allows you to take a trip every 3 years overseas, and so we were supposed to go to 2020, and it was like, do you remember when the world ended and we all put on our PJs? Well, like that Wednesday that the NBA canceled their season, we were supposed to leave 2 days later. We were supposed to fly out that Friday, and we were told that Wednesday, you guys can't go.
Yeah.
So fast forward 2 years, we were able to go this past spring, and they allow you practices prior to that trip. We played 4 games down in Medellin. We never had the ball, and we won all 4 games. It was weird. It just not typically how it works for us. We'll take it. That's a great experience. That's with a sports ministry organization that has been working in Medellin for 30 years, and like that was a bad place 20 years ago. It's different now. It's still needs the Lord, but man, I'm like they're not running around shooting each other like the 2 Escobars. I don't know if you ever seen
Yes,
that.
that's what I was exactly thinking about. Was the
crazy,
2 Escobars? Yeah.
We show that to our players before we go.
Yeah, you need
So
to. Yeah.
that's pretty sweet. So in that respect, we've been playing for a while now. This spring, typically the NCAA allows 5 weeks, and we'll play a alumni game. We'll play an inter-squad scrimmage if we can. We'll play a D1 opponent if possible. We're scheduled to play Bucknell tomorrow. Dave Brandt, former head coach, is coaching up there. So, man, I got so many guys that have gone under the knife. I think I have 13 field players that were going up there. So,
wow.
Not typical for us.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just happens that way. So
yeah. Well, you've covered a lot of ground. I really appreciate your time. Don't want to keep you too long, so I'm going to leave you with one last question, and maybe this is where you can maybe do a little bit of bragging about the history of the program. But what else would you like people to know about Messiah that we haven't talked about, or anything you want to reiterate? Kind of the last chance to talk about your program.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Messiah is for everyone, but I think for the right kid, there's no better place in the country to play soccer, and that's our vision. We have strong core values that I think we do a great job of communicating to incoming freshmen and to whether that's a recruit or incoming freshman, where they understand those core values. Sophomores, we want them to embrace them, where they're like, hey, these are important to me because of what I want. Juniors and seniors, we ask them to model it. So that's our whole program is based on our upperclassmen modeling our core values and the standards that we have in the program. We're really intentional about culture. We're really intentional about our environment. I talked about, we're really interested in recruiting a mature kid. The opposite is, if someone's immature, someone's a really good player and an idiot, we just don't recruit that kid. And so their character, the quality with which how they handle themselves in our program is tremendous. And so, I think that culture environment, our vision, certainly is we say we want to be the best place in the country to play soccer. And so there's other programs that are Division I or cost less or they win more. That's fine. But our passion, is to just be the best place to be. Where if you go back to what I said before, I'm like, man, we got a team full of kids, great teammates, high level buy-in. They love the Lord. They have a great work ethic. They're dedicated academically. They skillful, athletic, smart, and they're all pulling in the same direction. Like that's brilliant. People are like, oh, are you going to go anywhere? Are you looking to change job? I'm like, man, this place is brilliant because the guys are dying to be here. There's no higher calling, whether you're a club coach, a principal, a businessman, is to get the people part of your organization to have a high level buy-in. Makes your job better, makes their job better. It's all in alignment. And that's one of the things that we do really well here and makes us unique.
No, absolutely. Well, and it shows on the field. I think you guys have had like 11 national championships at the Division III level, which is just amazing. I remember always, even when I was playing Division III 20 odd years ago, looking up and always seeing Messiah there at the top. And so congratulations on all your success. Best of luck with all your players under the knife, and represent D3 well and go smack Bucknell around tomorrow. But we really appreciate your time, Coach, and best of luck next season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.